Welcome back for another deep dive with us. We're always talking about making positive changes, especially when it comes to health and well-being.
Hmm.
But today we're really going to get into why those changes, why those lasting positive changes actually take real effort.
Like learning any new skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And for this deep dive, we're tapping into the wisdom of health and well-being coach Dawud Osborne.
Oh, cool.
He works with people every day who are trying to make these kinds of changes.
I see.
And he starts off by highlighting this quote from F.M. Alexander.
Okay.
And it's about habits. It says, people do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures.
So true. And I think we've all been there, right? Like we develop these unhealthy habits without even realizing it. They
Right.
just kind of sneak in over time. And then before you know it, you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah, like miles away from where you wanted to be.
Exactly.
So we might start with good intentions,
Mm.
but if we don't put in that consistent effort, it's really easy to fall back into old patterns.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think this whole effortless change mentality comes in.
Right.
It's this idea that transforming our lifestyle should be easy, like it should just happen overnight.
Hmm.
But in reality, it just doesn't work that way.
It's like thinking you can become fluent in another language just by like listening to a podcast.
Right.
Or, like nobody thinks they can master an instrument without practicing.
Exactly. Yeah.
But when it comes to our health, we sometimes fall into this trap of thinking it should be different.
Yeah. And Osborne actually makes this really interesting comparison between lifestyle changes and learning a skill, like playing an instrument. He points out that both require dedication.
Yeah.
They require practice. You have to push through those plateaus, those frustrations.
It makes me think about I'm trying to learn how to play guitar, and those first few weeks were just brutal.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Like my fingers hurt, I sounded terrible, and I just wanted to give up.
But you stuck with it, right?
I did, yeah.
And I bet you felt amazing when you finally nailed that chord or learned a new song.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that feeling of accomplishment, that's what Osborne talks about. It's a key motivator in the change process.
Yeah, for sure.
It's celebrating those small wins and recognizing the effort that you're putting in and how far you've come.
And I think he also talks about how we need to realize that there will be setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when you hit a wall learning a new skill.
Yeah.
There are going to be times when you slip up or you make, a less healthy choice
Yeah.
or you just feel unmotivated.
Right. But it's not about viewing those setbacks as failures.
Right.
It's about viewing them as opportunities to learn, to
Exactly.
kind of understand what triggered the setback, maybe adjust your approach, and get back on track. It's about building resilience.
Yeah. So I'm sensing a theme here. It's effort, practice, persistence. And those are all qualities that we associate with learning any new skill.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like they're just as important when it comes to these lifestyle changes.
Absolutely. And it's easy to forget that because, we live in this world of like instant gratification and quick fixes.
Right.
We want everything now.
Totally. And it seems like, real change just doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It's funny because like we're bombarded with ads promising like six-pack abs in weeks or,
Yeah.
perfect skin with one product.
Totally.
And it's no wonder we develop this expectation of effortless change.
Exactly.
I mean, think about it. We live in a culture where you can order food, stream movies, connect with people across the globe instantly.
yeah.
So it's understandable how that kind of bleeds over into other areas of our lives.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, those conveniences are fantastic, but I think they can sometimes distort our perception of how change actually works.
Right.
Like, we start to expect those same quick results in areas that really require consistent effort and dedication over time.
Right. And that brings us to one of the first reasons Osborne highlights for this whole effortless change mentality.
Okay.
And it's this prevalence of immediate gratification in our society.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Like, have you ever felt that frustration when you don't see results from your new workout routine after just a week?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think a lot of people listening probably have felt that way.
Totally.
I think it's natural
Yeah.
to want to see those results quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important to remember, our bodies, our minds, they need time to adapt.
Right.
To these new habits, these new routines. Change takes time.
Yeah, change takes time. Just like anything worthwhile in life.
Absolutely.
It's a process.
And it's like we've kind of developed this like impatience with like the natural pace of change,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to our own behaviors.
For sure. And I think that impatience often comes from those misconceptions about change, right?
Right.
Like a lot of people think willpower is like this magic bullet.
It's like if I just try hard enough, I could do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But we were talking earlier about how it's not that simple.
Right. It's more nuanced than that.
So what are some of the other like misconceptions that Osborne points out?
Well, he talks about how people often underestimate the power of their environment.
Oh, interesting.
Right, and the influence of triggers. So, for example, let's say you're trying to cut back on sugar, but your pantry is still full of like cookies and candy.
You're setting yourself up.
Right. Your environment is working against you.
Yeah, it's like a constant willpower battle.
Exactly, exactly. And then there are those hidden triggers, right?
Right.
That can just totally sabotage our best efforts. So maybe stress triggers you to like reach for a bag of chips, or boredom leads you to scroll through social media for hours.
So part of the effort is like identifying those triggers and finding healthier ways to cope.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of effort, Osborne also talks about the fear of discomfort being a major obstacle,
Okay.
right? Like stepping outside our comfort zones can be daunting.
Oh, for sure.
It often involves facing those difficult emotions,
Yeah.
challenging our ingrained thought patterns,
Right.
experiencing those temporary setbacks.
And it's so much easier to just stick with what's familiar,
Right.
even if it's not serving us well.
Yeah.
Right.
And so we put off making those changes because we just want to avoid that discomfort.
Totally.
Right? We're like, oh, I'll start eating healthier tomorrow, or I'll join the gym next month.
Next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy to just push it off.
But delaying those changes just keeps us stuck.
Right.
Right. And that avoidance, that's a form of effort in itself. It's the effort of not changing.
It's so true. It's the effort of staying the same.
Exactly. Exactly. And that brings us to this really important point, right? It's about reframing how we view effort itself. So instead of seeing it as this like burden, we can start to see it as a necessary ingredient for like growth, for transformation.
Like it's an investment.
It is an investment. It's an investment in our future selves.
I love that. So we've talked about like why change requires effort,
Yeah.
but how do we actually put all of this into practice?
Right, right. So luckily, Osborne provides some really practical strategies for embracing what he calls structured effort.
Okay, let's hear it. Give us the tips, because I think everyone listening wants to know like how to actually do this.
For sure. Well, first and foremost, we need to set realistic expectations.
Okay.
Real change, lasting change, it takes time.
Yeah.
It's about shifting away from those quick fix mentalities
Right.
and embracing the journey.
It reminds me of like training for a marathon. Like you wouldn't expect to just go out and run 26 miles on day one.
Exactly. Exactly. You would start with shorter distances,
Right.
gradually increasing your mileage over time.
So it's like break it down into smaller steps
Exactly.
instead of like trying to change everything at once.
Right. So instead of trying to overhaul your entire life overnight, you focus on making like one small change at a time.
Right.
Right. That makes it feel less overwhelming.
And more achievable.
Way more achievable. And those small wins along the way, they build momentum.
Yeah.
Right? They create this sense of accomplishment.
It keeps you going.
That keeps you going. Exactly. It's about celebrating those little victories.
Recognizing your effort.
Recognizing the effort. Exactly. Exactly. And this leads us to another key strategy,
Okay.
which is mindfulness and self-awareness.
Okay.
Osborne talks a lot about how paying attention to your thoughts, your feelings, and behaviors
Yeah.
can be incredibly powerful.
Like becoming a detective of your own
Yes.
like inner world.
Yes. You become this detective in your own life. Right. It's about paying attention to those patterns and triggers we were talking about earlier. So maybe you notice that you tend to reach for sugary snacks when you're stressed.
Right. Or you're bored.
Or you're bored and you just find yourself like mindlessly scrolling through social media.
Yeah. And then once you identify those patterns, then you can start to find healthier ways to cope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where something called cognitive restructuring comes in.
Okay.
It sounds kind of fancy, but it basically means challenging and reframing those negative thought patterns.
Okay. I like that. But I think for some people, they might be like, what does that actually look like?
Yeah, for sure. So let's say you're trying to eat healthier, but you find yourself thinking, ugh, I'm too tired to cook tonight. I'm just going to order takeout.
I do this all the time.
Right. So cognitive restructuring would be challenging that thought and being like, okay, is takeout really my only option? What about that quick salad recipe I saved? Or maybe I can throw together a simple veggie stir fry.
So it's like you're almost like coaching yourself.
Exactly. You become your own coach, guiding yourself towards those healthier choices.
I like that.
And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes. You start to build those mental muscles.
Right.
You're actually strengthening those neural pathways.
It's like you're rewiring your brain a little bit.
You are. You're shifting that internal
Think
dialogue.
negative to positive.
From self-defeating to
Yeah.
self-encouraging. Exactly. Exactly. And speaking of encouragement,
Yeah.
Osborne also emphasizes the importance of having like support systems in place.
Oh, for sure. Like accountability.
Accountability, yeah. Having those people in your corner, whether it's a friend, family member, a coach, or even a support group,
Yeah.
they can provide that extra boost of motivation.
Totally. It's like having a workout buddy.
Exactly.
Makes it more fun.
More fun. Yeah, they can celebrate your wins with you and offer encouragement when you're facing those setbacks, which are inevitable.
Right. And he talks about normalizing setbacks.
Absolutely. Setbacks are a normal part of any change process.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you've failed. It just means you're human.
They're just part of the process.
Yeah.
It's like learning a new dance routine.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna step on your own toes a few times
Exactly.
before you get it right.
It's about learning from those missteps, adjusting your approach, and getting back on track. And sometimes those setbacks can even lead to like, unexpected breakthroughs.
Right.
Right? You might discover a new strategy or
Yeah.
gain a deeper understanding of your own patterns.
Totally. So instead of getting like discouraged by setbacks, we can actually use them to our advantage.
Exactly. Exactly. And remember, even those small steps forward, even when they feel insignificant, there's still progress.
Yeah.
Right? Don't discount those little wins.
They add up over time.
They add up. They totally do.
It makes me think about something else Osborne talks about, where it's like putting in the effort actually builds like valuable skills
Yes.
that extend beyond like just the specific change you're trying to make.
It's like you're building a toolbox of skills
Yeah, exactly.
that you can apply to any area of your life.
Totally. So it's things like resilience, patience, self-control, problem solving.
All those things. And those are valuable assets no matter what goals you're pursuing.
Exactly. So it's not just about the destination, it's about the growth that happens along the way.
Yeah, I love that. And I think ultimately that's what empowers us, right?
Yeah.
It's what empowers us to take control of our health and well-being instead of feeling like we're just like passengers on this ride.
We're in the driver's seat.
We are. We become the drivers.
Yeah, making those conscious choices. And that's very freeing.
It is.
Yeah.
It's liberating. One of the most inspiring things Osborne said was that breaking free from this effortless change mentality, it requires both education and support.
Okay.
It's about shifting our expectations, understanding that effort is like a key ingredient in this process, and then surrounding ourselves with people
Who support us.
who believe in us, who support us. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me think about that saying, I think it's an African proverb. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And I think that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
Change is a process, not an event. Embrace the journey, celebrate those small wins, and don't be afraid to ask for support along the way.
And remember, you're not alone in this. We've all been there.
We all have.
Struggling with those old habits, trying to make changes.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. What's one small step you can take today, right now, to start building a healthier habit?
And it really doesn't have to be anything drastic.
Oh,
It could be drinking an extra glass of water, going for a walk during your lunch break, or swapping out that sugary snack for a piece of fruit.
exactly. It's about those small, consistent actions repeated over time that lead to those big, beautiful transformations. Exactly. Remember, change is possible. It takes effort, but it's an incredibly rewarding journey. It leads to a healthier, happier you.
That's right.
We're so excited to see what you accomplish.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep striving for those healthier, happier versions of yourselves.
See you on our next deep dive.